It's a great honour and a pleasure for me to be interviewing a hero, one of a squad, we should say, of people who brought possibly the finest emotionally proud moment to all of us who are sitting here tonight, who are from round here. We're going to talk for half an hour or so, Alan and me, and then we'll open to the floor for any questions that anybody might have. Obviously, we're then going to see a glorious film of 80 minutes of sheer joy and bliss. And let's start. I want to start first of all by telling you that there was a midweek night early in that season when I went to Wigan with an handful of other Featherstone Rovers supporters, and Featherstone, there's some people nodding approval and saying I was there as well, and Featherstone got absolutely hammered, 60-odd-0, and shortly after that there had to be a change of coach, and that change was you. Are you aware of that time still in your memory?
Well, I'd have been unemployed if I hadn't got a job, wouldn't I? Yes, I am, Ian, and it's sad when you see a coach get it sacked for not getting results, because basically most of the players are to blame for not performing rather than the coach. But being a Featherstone lad, to be offered I applied for a job, I didn't get it offered. There were more than me in for it, and it was a pinnacle of my career.
What were you doing at the time, Alan? What you were out of work presumably because you applied for the job?
I had a job because it was part-time then, as you all probably know. But no, I wasn't coaching anybody. I packed in at Carlisle. Carlisle had set up that team, and they made us promises that if we get promotion, just how much money they're going to pump in. We got promotion, and they says we're selling your best player. And I thought, time to get out of here. Yeah. And so I wasn't doing anything rugby-wise. I was just going and spectating, and then, as I say, when the job was advertised, I applied for it, and fortunately, they thought I might be able to do something for them.
The team have just lost 60-odd-0 on a mucky Wednesday night at Wigan. What on your first day when you walk into a situation like that, what can you do?
I couldn't lose, could I? If they got beat, they're not going to get beat 65 again the following week.
No.
But no, from the outside looking in, there's far too many good players to be in the position they were in the league. And obviously every coach has different methods, and I just hope that mine might turn things round. And fortunately it did.
And did you bring a team in to enable you to do that?
Not really.
A coaching team, I mean.
Oh, sorry, yeah, well, Keith Golding was in the run. There were three of us shortlisted for a job, I think, and Keith Golding was one of them. And I'd played under Keith when he was coaching Featherstone Rovers, so I knew what he was like and the enthusiasm he brought to a club. I don't say he did with all his coaching methods. He used to train us far too hard for me. And but I could keep him in check a bit, so being his boss. And so he agreed to come on as my right-hand man, which was a good thing because his enthusiasm for the game was second to none.
Yeah, and a mad fitness.
Oh, a fitness fanatic, yeah, that's what I was saying. That's probably why I didn't like him, because he used to bring bollocks off in training. And then obviously, with me being able to control what he was doing, it sort of helped and it mellowed him a bit.
And what was the spirit of the players in the team like at the time?
Well, if they'd just been beat 65, no, I wouldn't have thought it was. It wasn't very good, Ian. It wasn't very good, and one of the things I noticed when I first took over, wherever I've been, we always try and get the players, get that camaraderie going between the players, and they used to come down, they get the training, then just get on the bike and get home. And whereas that's not going to breed team spirit, and so one night I says, I'm going across the railway, lads, if any of you want to come, I'll buy it first round. Of course, we were all there, weren't they? But it got them in, and it got them together, and that's how it started. That's little things like that could just gel the team together, and because when you've had a few beers, you call each other what you want, don't you, and don't see any fault in it.
Yeah.
But basically, I like to think that I brought the players together. Not them all, because some of them still used to go. They didn't even bother to get in shower. They just go home and kick what they're training and everything. No, seriously, some of the players, they'd come in if you do anything to say, and then they'd just get out and get in the car and go home. I just couldn't believe I'd never been at a club what were like that.
Let's come on to the enormity of the achievement. I just hinted to you earlier on, I was in Berlin visiting some friends about 2 months after that Challenge Cup final, and I was looking at the Berlin Wall, and it's in 3-foot high letters on the Berlin Wall, it said, Featherstone Rovers 14, Hull 12. And when you think about that there's this iconic thing, the Berlin Wall, that's worldwide known, and there's that score written on it, you realise that this achievement is huge.
Oh, some Featherstone lads have been to Berlin.
Oh, some Featherstone lads have been to Berlin. But I mean, there must have been messages coming from all over the world to you in weeks afterwards.
I did get some from New Zealand and Australia, but that was through rugby league contacts.
Yeah.
Nobody around here had put a stamp on to send contacts. And there were no mobile phones in them days, so you...
Yeah.
Alright, Allan, aye, that was it.
But what about the rugby league world in general? The people who run rugby league and things like that, they must have been shocked.
I ended up getting Man of Steel. There must have been, but I honestly believe that this trophy, which is a Man of Steel silver goblet, what you got, I honestly believe it had somebody else's name tagged. I do, seriously, if you have a look at it, I believe somebody else's name was engraved on that, and they had to brush it off and put mine on.
You can see it, can't you, Alan? You can see it.
You can. That's what I'm saying. If you come and have a look, I'll show you.
Wow.
But at least they spelled the name there. They put 2 L's in it.
Yeah. So they were shocked. Were they congratulatory though? Did the bigwigs from the game congratulate you personally?
In them days, the bigwigs got bigwigs like Nigel Wood. You can't get much bigger than that, can you?
Yeah.
But they just let you get on with it. They weren't bothered about getting in limelight.
Yeah.
You know, they just accepted that Featherstone Rovers, a little mining village, with a population of how many, Ian?
Probably 14,000.
17,000.
Was it 17?
Well,
Yeah, go on.
I said 17, but you know, we won Challenge Cup, and it was good for game.
Mm. Let's talk through the rounds. Are they clear in your mind? You were busy trying to save Featherstone Rovers from relegation, really, weren't you?
Yeah, that was the big thing we were doing. Featherstone were in the bottom 3, and it looked like they were going to get relegated. If they hadn't been like that, I would have got the job, because they sacked the previous coach because they weren't winning. And like Ian said, they'd be 65-11 at Wigan. And so we had to change things, and there were 1 or 2 players I didn't rate. Don't ask me who they are, because I won't name them.
Mm.
And there were some players playing which I thought were out of position, and so we just made 1 or 2 adjustments, got them a bit fitter than they were, and things started to click into place. And all the games we played in the Challenge Cup, we never played one at Post Office Road, because the one that were drawn at home with no floodlights, and it had to be played in midweek, and we took it to Wakefield. We played on Wakefield Trinity's ground. Batley, we beat Batley first round. Yeah. So it had a strange start to it, the old Challenge Cup round, cup run. Yeah. And fortunately, as I said, the camaraderie got better. The players got tighter. Just 1 or 2 of them, which I won't bother about, used to go home early. And we started getting that camaraderie together, and it rubbed off on the field. You know, because they did play some good football, and obviously, as I said, the main issue was not getting relegated because there was a lot of money involved in it. And fortunately we didn't, and obviously went on and won another little game.
The win against Batley at Wakefield Trinity's ground was quite an easy one, but then in the second round you're up against Salford, who were traditionally one of the big cup teams, and quite traditional enemies of Featherstone in cup matches. They drew Featherstone quite a lot in Challenge Cup, did Salford.
Well, they'd spent a lot of money, obviously, in putting the team together, and as I said, the confidence were growing because we were winning, and we didn't fear anybody in who we were playing against, and it rubbed off, and more people started coming to watch us, so we've got a few more money kitty.
I looked at the crowds for these. Obviously, you'd expect in a Challenge Cup run the crowds would increase, but they increased quite a lot. The game at Wakefield, I think there were about 1,100 people there.
That one, Batley.
Against Batley. And then the game against Salford, I think that was 6,500 or something like that. It was a narrow victory, but it was a good enough victory. But then you're up against St Helens at St Helens, and that's a different kettle of fish altogether, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they were obviously one of the top sides in the game. But I think this is when the team came together more than any other game, because nobody gave us a chance. And we played some very good football, and I think John Gilbert had his best game for the club in that day.
And probably John Marsden as well. They both played well, I think.
I can never remember Marsden playing well.
All right. There's that narrow win. I think it's 11-10 against St Helens, and then Bradford in the semi-final at Edinley. What plans can you make for a semi-final? And I'm always intrigued to know what managers or coaches say to the lads at a semi-final, because that is the do or die in some respects.
Yeah, that is the worst game I played into and lost to, and that's worse than losing in final.
Yeah.
I would think, because unfortunately I've never lost in a final, but going again, we went with a we can't lose attitude, because nobody gave us a chance of winning in any of the games, and so we just had a bit of freedom amongst ourselves to allow the players to express themselves, and they know, and I know that they were better than the league position showed them to be.
What do you say to the lads before a match like that? Do you say you've nothing to lose because nobody's expecting you to win?
No, you don't, Ian, but you know yourself, and it rubs off on the players. But the players by then, because we were winning more games than we were losing, the players were getting more confident, and by becoming more confident, they tend to play to the full ability, right? And they would risk things like chip over or a miss out pass, rather than when you're not winning, you won't try them things.
Yeah.
Oh, a bad loss there. Redfern, Hanley. He's still going, Ellery Hanley. Oh, and he's still going! And he's still going! Goodness gracious me, this could be the try of the season! What a try from Ellery Hanley!
There's always a moment in a game where there's an absolute shock, and you don't know if your team can recover. And the shock in that Bradford final, well, you know very well what I'm going to say, is that Ellery Hanley goes the full length from behind his own try line, and
virtually,
and well, he scores a full length try. Is the shock same for players as it is for fans at that stage?
I don't know, I won't play, unfortunately. It isn't. What you've got to do, Ian, as a coach, I'm looking at it from a coaching point of view.
Yeah.
The players know they've done wrong. He must have pushed about 4 people off and took Slime from here to there. And they will have felt it themselves. They've let not only themselves down, but the teammates. And so when they get behind posts, if the men, they'll discuss it in a manner whereby they will get a reaction from everybody who are listening to that team talk. And I would like to think that we've instilled enough professional into them so that they would accept that.
Yeah. Well, they responded brilliantly. And there is a moment, if I ever think about my watching of rugby league at that time, there's a moment with less than 5 minutes to go in that game where Peter Smith pulled off one of the greatest tackles that anybody will ever see on Jeff Gratian. Can you remember that at the time? Or you can't remember it?
I haven't tackled that Jeff Gratian, Christ. And I played with him at Jewellery, so I know how old he was.
But this is in the closing minutes of a game where Bradford's putting a lot of pressure on. Jeff Gratian here with the ball, but just watch Peter Smith and David Hobbs. See, there's no problem there, they're there in force. And you'll watch Bradford, Keith Mumby gets up and plays the ball. There's still no relaxing. A long ball again here to Redfern, but just watch Smith again. That's 2 tackles in just 30 seconds. And again, with a little bit of help from Keith Bell. But just watch this next tackle. Now, I think this is the match saver. It's a tremendous amount of pressure. This is 11-6 this game finished. But just watch this for a tackle. It looks as though he can't fail to score, but just watch who tackles him. This is a tremendous tackle. Smith and Bell again. That's where they're strong. And that, if they can do that in semi-finals, they can do that in finals.
Let's come on to the match itself then. And Featherstone often fly under radar and they get ignored until they're doing something big. And then when they're doing something big, the media descends upon them, and the first thing they say is little pit town, little crossroads on the road from Wakefield to Pontefract, and they try to romanticise the image. I can't imagine you'd be fond of that kind of behaviour from media.
Well, being a Featherstone lad, living in Featherstone live, which I still have, no, I didn't like it. And it proves again that if there's a will, there's a way. And the players had the will, and we just led them on the right way, fortunately.
Yeah. Does it annoy you though that when in the preparation for something like that, it's distracting that they say all these things about little old Featherstone and not enough about the quality of the players?
No, not really, because like a lot of players don't come from Featherstone, do they? Over the years, they're coming to do a job for Featherstone Rovers, and they'll come and they'll spend 12 hours a week in Featherstone. So, as much as it means a lot to me, especially nowadays, I don't think it means the shirt means much to any of the players who play now. It's just finance.
Really?
That's my opinion now.
You think the passion's gone now?
I think the passion of the game's gone. When we played, we used to get a full week's wage for playing part-time, and so to us it was giving us all the extras in life. You know, we got 12 quid a win. You know, what do they get now? They get £1,000 a week, don't they now? Yeah. And to me, there's not that much better than the players that played in my day.
Well, in a lot of cases, they're a lot worse.
I didn't like to say that.
Well, I said I don't. Well, I think it's well known that I don't watch it since Super League. What do you put it down to? That then, the lack of passion and the lack of commitment.
Well, we're partly to blame because when we were kids, we had to fight things. I had to go people in every summer, you know. And nowadays, they want for nothing, your kids, do they? And it's our fault. We're parents, and we want them to have the best life they can. Whereas in our day, when there were not much money about, like I say, I had to get up at 5 o'clock and jump on people and walk in at Bottomwell Street. You know, so it's a different world altogether.
It is. How much of it though is what happened in the game 20 odd years ago when they took Murdoch's money and decided to make it super and duper?
Yeah, they fell for it, didn't they? And when he offered the money, the game were desperate for money. You know, the game were about to go bankrupt, so they had to take the money what he was offering. And obviously, with taking his money, he had to rule the game. And I think that was the start of the downfall.
And you think that contributes to the lack of passion that there is amongst players now?
Well, I do, yeah. But personally, I think that they don't lack a passion, and they don't lack any. Like, as I say, I'm a Featherstone Rovers fan, and I sometimes watch them playing, and I just think to myself, show a bit of a spirit, you know, to try and get back into the game. because they seem to just throw towel in nowadays. I don't know whether that's just me being old-fashioned, but that's the way I see it sometimes. I sit behind posts, I don't sit on touchline, and I don't think it'll ever alter now.
Let's talk back onto the final. I can remember seeing a banner, and it said, "Hull have the Kiwis, but Featherstone have the polish." And I think, I don't know if anybody else has seen that. There's a famous photograph, isn't there, of that banner. And I think it's a good joke to start with, but it's also very telling, because Hull did have this team of New Zealand and Aussie and English internationals, and a lot of them from Featherstone and Castleford in the team, but Featherstone had some bloody good players as well.
Yeah, he knows his stuff, doesn't he?
Well, they did.
They went, at that time they were bringing Kiwis on, and O'Hara, Campbell,
Low-Eye,
you know, they were quality players, but I think he could have put a steamroller in front of Featherstone players then, and they'd have stopped it, because they had that desire to win, and it proved it at the end of the day that, you know, you get on about Peter Smith's tackles and things like that, but every player contributed. Even Marzi well, it was hard work, I'll tell you that now. It was hard work as a coach, but even he concentrated in semi-final. He pulled the tackle off in semi-final, and that more or less kept us in the game. I think it was Dave Smith, one of the fastest wingers in the game, and somehow Marzi produced a tackle that stopped him scoring, and that was one of the major reasons why we got to Wembley.
Yeah.
You know, but John, it started off as a fullback, and he was playing out wing, so he was a learning game, and you know what he's like. I think most of you don't know him, you could see his attitude in the cup matches were completely different to what it was in a league match, and that's if we could have transferred that attitude into all the players every week, they'd have been top of the league. But unfortunately, you can't do it.
I was thinking as well, Alan, that man for man, Featherstone had easily the equal of some of the whole so-called stars. I mean, in Peter Smith, you've got one of, I know he played Lewis Forward in final, but you've got one of the greatest second rowers of the century, to me.
It is in our minds, Ian, because we know how such a good player he was.
Yeah.
But he was a moody bastard, I'll tell you.
Is he in?
I just could smash goal windows if it. And this, beginning about coaching and playing, my idea of coaching is tactical know-how and man management. You know, when Mars is messing about and changing, you have to have a word with him. I'm not just on about John. All the other players, you know, like John Gilbert, he went off in that final. They'd have to, if I had been playing in a cup final, they'd have to carry me off, in a wheelchair before, rather than walk off, and then you're jumping up and down on bench when we score, and he's supposed to be concussed. But it don't matter, because at the end of the day we scored more points than they did, so that's what you go to Wembley for. You're not there to entertain crowd, and I know that sounds awful, but you're not there to entertain crowd. You're there to score more points than opposition, and it don't matter what sort of your own supporters will be happy. So if it had been 1-0, they'd have been jumping up and down and wrecking London, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. I've heard it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I...
He usually is, isn't he?
No. Well, yeah, all right. I think I heard it at the time that you had said that you'd spotted a weakness in Hull, and it was in their centres, and because they couldn't bloody tackle.
Correct.
And before the game, were you concentrating on that? You thought that was the hole in the wall?
Not necessarily before the game. You have to plan, obviously. In the build-up to the game, one of them was Steve Evans, and I think everybody in here knows that he could never tell.
And Low-Eye couldn't tackle either.
Sorry?
Low-Eye.
No, they were picked for their attacking ability. The balance of their side wasn't right at all, in my mind. But and we, as I say, they'd been to Hull and been to Wembley, and they were going again. they expected to win every game they played because they paid to put a team together. You know, like you say, in Little Wyke and Little Arden, they spent a lot of money to get these together to get success. Bought Steve Evans over at that time, but he never produced it for us, in my mind anyway. And I know we were a poor defender, and I know Lolo was, so, you know, if you said to Dave Hobbs, who would you rather run it, Charlie Stone or Steve Evans? You'd say Steve Evans, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Because it was an unusual, I mean, there is a serious point to it. It's an unusual rugby league tactic at the time to have a big second row forward rampaging through centres, isn't it? Like he did.
He started as a centre, I don't know if you know, Dave Hobbs started as a centre.
Yeah.
But no, well, we had, sorry to refer to when I'm playing, when I played at OKR, we had Phil Lowe and Paul Rose. And, you know, you couldn't get a better 6'2", 6'3", runs like a three-quarter, running them on fringes. You know, it's a dangerous place for a defender to be when you see somebody like that running at you.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you wouldn't have heard this at the time, but there was a turning point in that Challenge Cup final when Hull managed to sneak in front, and Alex Murphy famously said in his commentary, "The floodgates will open now," and they didn't.
No, well, when I went to him, I heard about it, and next time I saw him, I said, "Has the floodgates opened yet, Alan?"
Were you confident throughout the game that Featherstone would win? Or was there a point where you worried?
When we kicked off. I honestly thought we had the beating of Hull, and whichever side we would have been playing that day, I think the commitment of the players and the confidence they had in them, we would have beaten anybody on that day.
I think you're right. What about the night before the game? You've already said that you let the lads go down to Railway after training. What about the night before the game? Were they allowed to have a pint then?
I don't ask me. Yeah, well, I wanted a pint, so
you had one?
I had more than one or two. Now what happened was we'd been down a couple of days beforehand, and I'd said on the Friday, I says, "You know what you're down here for?" I says, "Go and have a drink by all means." I says, "But remember, tomorrow you're in the biggest game of your life." And that's another. I was sat by myself in the hotel, and they were doing a little fire, and all of a sudden Pete Smith comes jogging back in, and then all of a sudden everybody else comes jogging back in. Dave Hobbs says, "Excuse me, friends," he says, "Knackers." Because Pete, they'd set off from this pub, and Pete says, "Come on lads, let's jog it back." So he started jogging. And then, of course, Bats had to jog with him, and Dave Hobbs comes in 20 minutes later. And they come out with that, and you could see, you know, as I've said, we could have played Australian national team next day, and I still think we'd won.
Yeah. Can you imagine in any sport other than rugby league and Featherstone being involved, where the night before the game they go for some ale and jog back to hotel? I've never heard that.
No, that's what it's to highlight it, isn't it? And it's
wonderful. I know that Featherstone had the beating of Hull when I saw the suits and white shoes that Hull were wearing.
That was another motivational. It didn't motivate, because motivation is an inner feeling. If you said to me, "Jump off that ceiling," I wouldn't do it. But if I tell myself I'm going to jump up there and jump off that ceiling, I'd do it. So motivation can be an overused word. But when I saw them white shoes, I just thought to myself, "We've overplayed it here." You know, I'd have been all right asking Mickey Gibbons to put a pair of white shoes on to do the work.
For the younger ones in the audience, Hull sort of copied that soccer team style of having suits and shoes made
Yeah, they had
to come out.
grey suits, full grey suits, obviously shirt and tie, and then white shoes.
Half the bunting looked a disgrace in it, didn't he?
Featherstone lad, he's a well,
I know.
a Featherstone lad in white shoes.
Just on the thing with Arthur Bunting, two Featherstone lads coaching two finalists in a Challenge Cup at Wembley. Did you speak to him before the game?
Yeah, I said, I look. Oh, before the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, good luck, Arthur. And then after the game, I said, hard luck.
Let's talk about the emotion. I know you're a bit of an emotional man. Were you overcome, Alan? I mean, we don't see it on television. We see the glee and the joy in your face. But was there a moment afterwards where you perhaps shed a tear, or?
Yeah, when I realised how much money tax one was taking up.
Yeah.
I looked at my wage and I thought, that bastard.
Seriously?
No, yeah, well, being a Featherstone lad, as I said, I always wanted to play with Featherstone, but I wasn't good enough. And being a Featherstone lad, being in charge of your local team, means a lot. All right.
That's enough. All right. I've got one more question, and we'll open it to the floor. Heather and me were very poor at the time, and we couldn't afford to go on public transport even to Wembley, so we each hiked, and we each hiked back, and we got back just in time to see bus turning into Station Lane. That must have been a great moment for you.
Yeah, homecoming was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
All the way up Station Lane.
All the way up.
Full.
Well, we started at Nottingley.
Yeah.
And there was drift, you know.
Because there's always been a traditional support from Nottingham. Yeah.
And then through Ponty, and then Station Lane was full. You couldn't get up it. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. It seems it's one of them simple-minded questions, but it was the pinnacle of a well-enjoyed career in a game, wasn't it, for you?
Well, I did do other things after that.
I know you did.
It's proudest moment in my rugby career, yes.
And on that sweet note, you can all go and buy yourselves a pint. So let's do a big round of applause for Allan Agar.
The referee says he just might have let the boot slip in, but just watch it, and he does, and rightly so. He's got 10 minutes in the sin bin, and that could be very costly.
Yes, and isn't he striking that ball well now? Allan Agar, he looks concerned. But he's lost it. No penalty. And he'll be hoping this 96th will go over. And it's 2 points. So that's fresh life to those Featherstone players and fans. Well, Arthur Bunting knows he's not home and dry yet. Featherstone piling the pressure on now. Steve Hankin. Gary Siddall, Hankin again. Oh, and a good ball to Hobbs. Oh, he's going for the line, and he's over. Well, just when we thought Featherstone were down, there's that man Hobbs again. He strolled through that whole defence. 12 points to 10.
Doesn't this lad got some pace? Get out me road, son. I'm going for that winner's medal. And doesn't he do that? Good try.
Allan Agar looks a little happier. I wonder what he's drinking there. 6 minutes to go. 12 points on, and just look at those Featherstone fans. Here's the attempt, and it's Hobbs himself. And has he got it? No goal. No goal. 2 minutes to go, and Featherstone applying the same tactics. Driving to those posts. Absorbing 2 or 3 tackles. And here could be a dramatic penalty. And a penalty, yes. Oh yes, obviously a nasty knock. But it's surprising what that magic sponge can do. But there comes a time in a goal kicker's life when one counts, and I'm sure this will be the one in Quinn's life. Seconds ticking away. The Challenge Cup to be settled here. And it is! And that man, Steve Quinn. Look at those fans, the underdogs. Oh, credit to that coach, Allan Agar. Mick Crane, oh, that's a good kick. James Newlye's going for the ball. Oh, but a beautiful fall by Stevie Quinn. 3 minutes of injury time now. And there is the hooter. Well, one of the greatest turn-ups of all time in rugby league history. Just look at that coach. He's in tears, is Allan Agar. The little mining village from the West Riding of Yorkshire has defeated the might of Humberside. And congratulations to that lad. Nobody said he could do it, and he has. But there's one man who has played to his potential, Terry Hudson. Almost sold for £1,000 at the beginning of the season, that boy. And now here he is, about to go up for the Challenge Cup from Lord Gormley. And it's there. And all Featherstone leap in the air. They've done it again. They've defeated the favourites. The might of Humberside goes under to Featherstone. And it's nice to see that the first concern is for Allan Agar. He took over this team after they'd just been beaten by my colleague Alec Murphy's team, 45 points to 0 in November. The club were down, the club were out. He was appointed coach, and what a transformation. Yes, Allan Agar, done a marvellous job, Alec.
Well, I think they'll make him mayor of Featherstone, and rightly so. They deserve to win. They've had a superb battle. They've put the hot favourites down. The Titanic's been sunk, and they've thoroughly deserved it. And I don't think anybody will say not.
Featherstone coming back from 12 points to 5 down. Take that Challenge Cup 14-12.